Hey, I'm Olivia,
I'm Regan.
and you're listening to Soarin Around WDW. Okay, so welcome back to another episode of Soarin Around WDW. Today we're going to kind of get into a little bit of news. There wasn't as much, obviously, as our last
Yeah.
episode, which is good. We were kind of ready for a little break from all the news and craziness. And then we're going to jump into a special spooky episode of going over our opinions, thoughts, tips, tricks for Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party. And we've had a lot of memories at this party in the past since it's going to be Halloween tomorrow when this comes out. But first of all, just to jump into the news, I guess, Regan, do you want to talk about the people kind of stepping down and what that means? That was really the biggest things announced, I think, this week. So, like Mark Parker stepping down in January, and then Bob Iger's situation.
Yeah, so from what I understand, there's just been some shifting around of leadership at Disney in general, and what they seem to be doing is just getting ready to pick who their next CEO is going to be to replace Iger. Once again, for those of you that don't know, Iger was the CEO and then stepped down shortly after Disney Plus rolled out, or just before. I can't quite remember. I think it was about 2019. And Bob Chapek stepped in. People were really not happy with Chapek and the changes that he made, the things that he was doing. So he stepped back down, and Iger stepped back in, which, to my knowledge, had never happened prior to that.
Yeah.
And so now Iger's just trying to seek like an exit plan. Also, like his run the first time, I think, was a little bit more well received. I think that the impact that he had in releasing Disney Plus like just before COVID hit,
Yeah.
I think was a big win for him as a CEO and a really good note to like leave on. And then coming back into kind of like
A mess.
the mess that Chapek had made, kind of just trying to like nickel and dime a bit more.
Yeah.
It seems like he's almost like adopted that versus kind of going back to making it his own. I definitely think that there's like some things that are better than when Chapek was there. I think that Iger does a little bit better at prioritizing pass holders and locals and giving some people like value there. But
Yeah.
outside of that, I think there's still a lot of like just trying to squeeze every dollar out of people, which is frustrating.
Right.
So that won't happen until like the new CEO won't be announced until early of 2026. So we still have a year left until they announce it, and I don't know what the exact like process is after they announce it. If it's like a immediate switch or if it's kind of like a presidency where we find out a few months before the actual changeover happens. Like, I don't know. So we will see what happens there and who ends up taking over for Iger. Hopefully, because they had announced a lot of things and overpromised before COVID at
Yeah.
D23. And then I think new leadership took over. I think when Chapek took over, a lot of those ideas got canned and canceled. So hopefully that does not happen with this new switch over. But I think they'll already be pretty deep into the process for all of the changes before the new CEO steps in. So we'll see.
Yeah. Yep. So that was kind of the biggest news. And the only other thing that I thought maybe we could touch on was the changes to early morning magic hours or whatever at
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Hollywood Studios. So like explain like what exactly changed, because at first we thought this was going to be better news than it was. So I guess explain kind of what the change
Yeah.
is.
So I've always been talking about like looking at Animal Kingdom early entry as an example. You line up at security about 6:30. You get let through security about 6:45 ish. And then you get into the park at about 7:05 ish. This is with early entry starting at 7:30, and then you get walked to the entrance of Flight of Passage about 7:20-ish. Like from the bridge that leads into Pandora.
Yeah.
Meaning that you don't get on the ride physically until about 7:45, because once you get to the front of like the top of the line, you're first in line, you have to wait for 192 people to catch up and get sorted into groups and all this stuff. And so I've always thought it would be better if you were at the top of the line. Everyone was just at the top of the line at 7:30. Yeah, in the queue at 7:30, so that they start, or even sectioned off into your groups and just waiting in the pre-show room, like something to make it a bit quicker so you're on the ride even 5-10 minutes faster, because those 5-10 minutes in early entry are pretty substantial.
Yeah, they make a big difference.
So what the news that I saw was essentially that early entry was changing back to the way it was pre-COVID, and they were testing this at Hollywood Studios. So I thought that this meant that people were going to be able to get into the lines for rides and get like right onto the ride at 8:30 or at 7:30, 8:30, whenever early entry starts, like right at 8:30, or before sometimes, like we did at Remy's at Epcot for our challenge run. We were on and off Remy's before early entry even started. And what it turns out is that, because we haven't rope dropped Hollywood Studios in a long time, and so I wasn't aware that everyone was held outside the gates at Hollywood Studios until early entry began, which must have been absolute chaos, and people must have run to the rides and stuff. So essentially now Hollywood Studios has adopted what every other park does, which is that you get let in a bit into the park before early entry, and you get brought up to a certain area after you scan your hotel on your app. You get let up to a certain area, and that is where the quote-unquote rope drop happens. So essentially, Hollywood Studios has not been rope dropping. They've just been lining people up outside. So now everyone can go to various lands. You can go to Toy Story Land. You can go to the entrance to Galaxy's Edge. You can go to
like
Tower
wherever
of Terror,
your ride priority is.
Sunset, all those areas will have cast member barricades set up, just like every other park for early entry. The only interesting thing that I saw is that Star Tours is so wildly unpopular, or just a high weight ride, so the rope drop for early entry is after that. So if you don't have early entry, you can still go on Star Tours before the park officially opens.
Yeah.
Which is weird.
That is weird.
So you don't need early entry to be able to ride Star Tours during early entry, in case that ever comes in handy for somebody.
That's so random.
I know. So that was just something that I read that was interesting. So shout out to Blog Mickey for all those articles and for answering some questions on Twitter that I had following. But yeah, and then the other piece of news that I just saw yesterday is that apparently they have already begun some of the preliminary work on Big Thunder Mountain.
Okay.
It hasn't closed, but they have some like tarps up and stuff. I couldn't quite see where it was. It looked like it was kind of near the Rivers of America side of the ride. But they've already started working on some of the stuff there. My assumption is that they want to say it's going to take longer than it will.
Yeah.
And so they're trying to get ahead of it. So, like we said last week, that closes, I think, January 12th or something, 2025, January 9th, Early 2025 it closes, not supposed to open until 2026.
After our run, yep. Yeah, and then the only other thing was we had a question in the question box from Diego with Amusement Park Pirates, just asking if we had seen any other updates about the Rivers of America stuff and kind of like our thoughts on it, which we've talked a lot about in past episodes. But our thoughts are basically we are for it, even though a lot of people are not. But I haven't seen any further updates other than we had talked about the permit error or issue with like environmentalism a couple episodes ago, but have you seen anything else about this?
No, I've not heard anything. As far as I know, everything got resolved. Like, there's no reason to believe it hasn't, or that Disney's not panicking that it won't. get resolved. I don't think it'll be as big of a deal as... I think I watched a DSNY newscast video talking a little bit more in depth about that permit filing and stuff, and he didn't seem concerned that it was going to have any like long-term impact on construction dates or anything.
Okay.
So no, I've not heard anything. Again, yeah, I am for it 100%. Like, yeah, it'll be interesting to lose that element of water, but I think that what they're going to build there is going to be like nice to look at. I don't think it's just going to be this like giant concrete building.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I think it'll be good. And replacing two, well, I guess one ride that takes 30 minutes, 30 minutes.
Yeah.
That's not really entertaining. With two rides at least, there's actually theories that there might be a third ride, that there might be two versions of the Cars attraction there. Like, so there'd be like the family ride that just kind of like Mater's Junkyard Jamboree style, and then the other ride they were talking about, it looked like there might be like a thrill version and then kind of like a not thrill version.
Oh, interesting.
Of it.
Huh.
But I don't know if that's legit or not. So we'll just see what happens. But yeah, still for it.
Okay, cool. Well, let's move into the main event today. So Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party is something that I have loved since we were young kids. We first started going in the early 2000s when we had moved down to Florida in 1999. So the first party, this was interesting to read about because I always hear so much more about the Oogie Boogie Bash than I do these, like, in recent years about Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party. So I always just assumed that that's been around a long time and is super popular, but reading into it, I kind of learned it's evolved a lot more at Disneyland than it has at Disney World. So Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party started October 31st, 1995 at Walt Disney World. It was a one-night single party, and tickets were $16.95. It was an extended, same thing, I know, so cheap, after-hours event. There was no special parade or special fireworks, but they did have the Headless Horseman run through, so that's kind of stayed ever since it started, with some modifications, which we'll talk about. And this kind of all came about because Universal obviously had their own scary party that started in 1991 as Fright Nights and then changed to Halloween Horror Nights in 1992, so the following year. Okay. And it was so popular that Disney was like, okay, we got to do something like this. They were already doing something for Christmas, but they're like, we need to do something for Halloween too, and decided to make a more obviously family-friendly version, which we appreciate, and get the villains a little more involved, but still keep it friendly for kids and families, as Disney usually is. But then at Disneyland, it was introduced into the parks as Mickey's Halloween Treat from 1995 to 1996. Then it went away until 2005, came back to DCA, stayed there, and then in 2008 remained as Mickey's Trick or Treat Party. Then in 2010, moved back to Disneyland from DCA, was renamed to Mickey's Halloween Party. And then not until 2019 was it Oogie Boogie Bash at DCA again, which is crazy to me. So like,
that's after my first visit to Disneyland.
Yeah, so I guess at the time that I went and you went to Disneyland, it would have been Mickey's Halloween Party in Disneyland. But now I think I hear so many people talk about Oogie Boogie Bash and it being so much fun and so cool, and that got moved to DCA and became that name in 2019. So really not that long.
Yeah. I remember it happening my second visit. It was going on because I went in October.
Okay.
And so we saw the signage and stuff, but we didn't attend because we had entry into the parks normally, and so it didn't make sense to buy Oogie Boogie Bash on top of that. But yeah, I've heard good things about it.
Me too. So for those of you who aren't familiar, if you have never been to the Halloween party before, it's an after-hours event where you can get entry at 4 p.m. to the park, but the actual party It's at Magic Kingdom in Walt Disney World. And we're mostly going to speak about this since we've never been to Oogie Boogie Bash. But you can get into the park at 4 p.m. The party doesn't actually start, like the trick-or-treating, the Halloween theming stuff, until 7, and it goes until midnight. So, yeah, back in the day when it cost $16.95, that's crazy because
Could you always get in early?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, because I remember waiting, like, outside the TTA, changing into my costume, like, before it got dark. Like, yeah, I want to say same thing, like 4 or 5. Maybe not quite as early, but it definitely you could get in before the actual party started. And they would give you a special wristband so they could identify, you know, who was part of the party, who was not. They'd ask for your wristband a couple of times throughout the night to make sure that you were legit and people weren't just like hiding in the bathroom and then coming back out after they wristbanded. But the cost today, like this year, it fluctuates because they start it as early as August, which is kind of crazy in my opinion, but that's neither here nor there. And then do it until Halloween. This year they even had a date, I believe November 1st, like the day after, because Halloween's on a Thursday. So I think they either had, I think it was the Friday, the day after, that they had a party as well. And just the cost today,
on that one extra day.
The decor, until they switch it over to Christmas.
Yeah, that's true.
So the cost today ranges between $119 per ticket to $199 per person per ticket, which is crazy to me. So a regular park day ticket is there's
not a party on November 1st.
Oh, there's not? Does it end on the 31st?
Just checked. Yes, there is one on the 31st.
For some reason I thought that it was. Okay, just kidding. So it ends Halloween night. But that cost to me, as somebody who, we went as kids, I have tickets, I'll have to post on our Instagram the pictures of the tickets, but that say like $20.95 or $24.95 when we used to go pretty consistently. So from like 2001 to 2004-ish, the price was very cheap. And then when I got to college, my husband Maddie and I, when we were dating, we used to go, and it was very inexpensive. It was a way for us to go to Disney and be able to get on a lot of rides at Magic Kingdom because the wait times are super low for cheap, because it was only like maybe $45 or $50. So it was more expensive than it used to be, but still way worth it over a day pass, which at that time was like $100 or so, $90 to $100-ish. Right. So the fact that this costs as much as a regular day ticket, and you're only getting from 4 to midnight, granted, way less wait times. The lines are...
Yeah, but also no ability to... Like, the wait times are what they are.
Right.
You can't skip the lines, you can't...
There's no lightning lane, yep.
Yeah, which, like, does make the standby go faster, but, like, you still have to be picky and choosy, because when you have that limited amount of time, rides like Tron now, or Mine Train... or Tiana's eventually, like, are probably going to be an hour plus still.
Well, yeah, we waited for Mine Train, I think, like 40 minutes when we did the party, our last party. And, yeah, that was, like, still long. Not as long as it would have been during the day, but still long. And the problem with the party is you really have to pick and choose what you want to do, because they have a special parade, they have special fireworks, they have special characters, and regular characters that are dressed up as Halloween stuff. And so you have to kind of decide, is my priority to go on as many rides as I can with short wait times, or is my priority to do all these special and unique things? And most people, I think, lean towards doing the special and unique things, because you can go on Thunder Mountain anytime. But we kind of typically do a mix of both. I remember as a kid, we were very heavily focused on the candy, which is so funny, I guess just because we were kids. But, like, we would spend a lot of time going to different lines and trick-or-treating.
Well, and going through them multiple times, too.
Yes, and coming home with, like, our bag totally full of candy, sometimes excess over that, which is so silly because it's like we could have gone and bought, a bag of candy at Walmart for whatever, but it was the fun of it as a kid.
Right.
So yeah, you can trick or treat. There's multiple different locations throughout the park, kind of depending on where you're at. There's almost always one or two in sight, and they are really quick. You get in line, you walk through, they drop candy into your bag, you keep going, and because they have certain contracts, it's a lot of like Wonka or Nestle, because Wonka's owned by Nestle, so like M&M's, Wonka candy, a lot of chocolate. Actually, the last time we went, I was like, okay, and I'm not a huge chocolate person, but I definitely think like cool to do it in a couple of lines, but like really focus on the other really cool stuff that they have going on. The parade that they have is twice a night, and it starts, usually there's like an earlier parade around 8 or so, and then there's a later parade around 11. And a huge piece of advice that I have is if your little kids can hang, have them take a nap earlier in the day. If your little kids can hang, watch the later parade and go on rides during the 8 o'clock parade, because the lines will be super short. Everyone with really little kids go to that parade because they usually leave shortly after that or shortly after the fireworks. So that's definitely a great time to take advantage of shorter lines for characters, shorter, if they have characters out during that time, which sometimes they don't, but shorter lines for rides for sure. And then the parade itself is actually like my favorite parade. I really love this parade. I remember vividly as a little kid, the Headless Horseman running down, and now, unfortunately, he's not running anymore. He's just kind of like trotting with the horse. I think there were some injuries, or the horse got spooked a long time ago, and now they just have him kind of trotting through. But it's still really cool. The floats are all really cool. Yeah, I just really love that parade. What is your opinion about the parade? Are you like, oh, I definitely want to see it if I win again, or are you like, eh?
No, yeah, I mean, the parade is really, really good. I'm not a huge parade person in general, but
Yeah.
it's definitely unique. It's cool. It has like really, really good characters. Like the villain representation's awesome. Like I think that, yeah, that parade's definitely the best parade. It has a really catchy song, obviously.
Yeah.
And
It gets stuck in your head forever.
yeah, but I mean, it's interesting that you say like people focusing on the events rather than the rides and stuff. I think mixing the two is a good call.
Yeah.
But I feel like every time that I've gone recently, and even like more so for the Christmas party, but for things like this, is like I always try and just like be like, oh, let's go on all the rides, and I'm like, I could have gone on all these at any time, kind of like you said, because I was a pass holder, and so like, I feel like I kind of missed out on a lot of those like special events and stuff. That's why it's like I feel like I have a really low opinion of the Christmas party, and I feel like that's because I've never really tried to like
just do the party stuff.
The Christmas party stuff. Yeah, I've always just tried to go on rides.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, no, the parade's really good. The fireworks are really good too. It is a specific fireworks show that is like different for the Halloween party. It's not the same as the other Magic Kingdom nights, which is actually
wishes. Oh my gosh, I just called it Wishes.
At Disneyland, it's different in that, like, during the holidays, there is the holiday fireworks show at Disneyland because Oogie Boogie Bash takes place at DCA. So the Halloween fireworks show is seasonal at Disneyland, and it's not Wondrous Journeys during that time. But at Magic Kingdom, it's only during the Halloween party that plays.
Yeah. Well, so when we were kids, fun story, we used to dress up and go all out as a family. We did a lot of, for whatever reason, Peter Pan. Like, Regan was Peter Pan like 500 times, and I was either Tinkerbell. One year I was Alice. Another year I was Tiger Lily, and, you know, whatever. We rotated through these costumes. Then we had a year where he was Captain Hook.
Frankenstein, and I remember being Darth Vader, and I remember being a clone trooper, and all three of those things had masks.
Yeah,
and I I would be not wearing the mask by the time we entered the park.
Yeah, yeah. It's just so hot.
It's just a really vivid memory that I have.
That's what I remember being Alice, Tinkerbell, Tiger Lily, and then one year, I think the year you were a clone trooper or maybe Darth Vader. I can't remember. I'll have to look at the pictures. But I was like Elizabeth Swan from Pirates of the Caribbean. No one had any idea who I was.
Just a girl in a dress.
Just a girl in a dress with like fancy-ish hair like her. Like I like curled my hair and had it up like half up in a bun thing like her. But I do remember same thing, it being so hot as a kid, and my costumes were not nearly as hot as Regan's. And then when we were young, they used to ask kids, I don't think they do anymore, but they used to ask kids to be in the parade. And we got to do a lot of really cool things when we were younger, like host different shows and whatever at Disney. Like they'd be like, oh, come with us. You guys can start the Tarzan Rock show, which we'll have to talk about at some point. But they asked us to be in the parade. And Regan was like really not wanting to do it and was like, well, what am I going to get for doing this? And they're like, a certificate. And he was like, no, I want to go like do the Halloween stuff. So then I think our parents, or maybe they did, give us like a pop, like an It's a Kadoozy popsicle.
It's a Kadoozies were the trade.
It's a Kadoozies.
That was the currency as a child. Like if I was gonna get paid in It's a Kadoozies, or the Italian Ice was good. Yes,
the Minute Maid like lemon or strawberry, ooh, with the wooden little spoon. Oh my gosh.
I hope we just unlock some core memories for people by saying It's a Kadoozies.
It's a Kadoozies.
Because that's a very specific type of popsicle.
Yes, it is. And they don't sell them at Disney anymore, which is sad. I don't think they
sell them at all anymore.
Well, they were huge and very messy, and when it's hot and it melts in like 2 seconds, they were very long. Like, I'm sure
I only ever got like a quarter of it before it was gone when I was a kid.
Yeah. So we used to get those when we would do different things. Like Disney would give it as like a little thank you, which was super fun. But we got to go in the parade, and we have some like really funny like home video footage of us somewhere that I have to find of us in the parade, and we're like supposed to be waving and excited, and Regan's like half asleep, like waving.
Well, they just it's so weird because they just throw you in the back of like a carriage or like a open cart, and you just like stand there and wave. And like it's similar to like my thoughts on like being in the Macy's Day Parade. It's like it sounds like a once in a lifetime opportunity. You got to do it, but then you don't get to watch the Macy's Day Parade. You're just in it. And like that was my whole thing, is like we didn't get to experience. And you have to like be there before the parade and like get all ready and get in the cart, and like it was just like a lot of. I don't know.
Most people would die for this experience.
Yeah, no, I was not about it. Like
it's so funny, and we were probably like, I don't know. Riga was probably like 6 or 7, right? You think?
Probably, I don't know. I don't
5, 6.
That was when we were really young, because
we were really
when we started bringing friends, they weren't doing that anymore.
Yeah. Because then as we got older, we got to bring a friend with us. I would bring, a friend, or then when Maddie and I started dating, we would go together. But yeah, it is so funny to think about, like, that we were just like, about this experience. Like, I thought it was cool, but I wasn't like, oh, this is the coolest thing, because I was a little bummed that we were missing, like, so much of the party. But then another thing I really remember about this parade was when we were really little, and this was not for very many years, they used to have a Cruella de Vil float area, and Jasper and Horace would be driving this truck that was like open but had bars, and there were literally maybe not 100 but a lot of actual Dalmatian puppies in the back of the float. And I remember being like, oh my gosh, they're so cute, how cool. And then I'm sure like animal cruelty or like PETA was like, no, this is not cool. You can't just put all these puppies in the back of this truck at Disney. And so they nixed that. But I do remember going back when I was older and telling Maddie, like, okay, I'm so ready to show you the puppy, like, it's my favorite. And they were like, oh, no, that's, like, gone. We could not keep doing that.
Yeah, no, I mean, that didn't make any sense. And I'm sure that they had good conditions inside the truck for the puppies. Like, puppies were probably fine, but, like, it's loud, and it's, it's got to be pretty frightening for them. So I'm glad that they stopped that.
Yeah. So those are kind of some parade memories, but definitely recommend the parade. I think the float right now that sticks out in my mind, like from the last time that we went, which was just a couple years ago, 2 years ago, was definitely always the Haunted Mansion, people dragging the shovels, but they have this really weird float that I wish they would get rid of, but now I kind of don't because it's like nostalgic, where there's this chicken like balking and it's just like bok, 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 bok. And it's so loud. And I don't really understand. If someone can please fill us in on like why is this in this parade? Why? Like forever. And I remember it as a kid too. Like it's definitely not new. And I remember my daughter Eiley, she was like 3 at the time, or maybe 4, 3.5 the last time we went. And she was like, why is there this chicken? Who is this chicken? And I was like, yeah, I don't know what to tell you. It's
it's just there.
Random. It's just there.
And
my
then favorite float's definitely the Pirates of the Caribbean one.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that one.
Yeah.
That one is so cool. It reminds me of Phantasmic at Disneyland a little bit.
Yeah.
Like how they incorporate.
Now, so.
Well, it's Peter Pan, right?
Yeah.
But I do think pre-Pirates in the Halloween parade at Disney, it was Peter Pan on the ship float, if I remember
Yeah,
right.
Probably. That sounds right.
Which is super cool. But they also have some really cool character meet and greets. So this year, the list is in Fantasyland. They have Alice and the Mad Hatter, the Queen of Hearts, and those are both kind of right outside the teacups. And Tweedledee and Tweedledum is also, they all rotate through. Winnie the Pooh, Eeyore, Piglet, and Tigger, and they're all dressed up in cute little Halloween costumes. That's right outside of Pooh. Eric and Ariel are in her little courtyard. Belle is over by Maurice's cottage. The year we went, they also had Gaston with Belle, which was super fun. Anastasia and Gisela kind of walk around, but are usually by Cinderella's fountain behind the castle. Mirabelle and Bruno, which is newer, that wasn't there when we were there, isn't there in the Fairy Tale Garden. And then in Adventureland, you have Aladdin and Abu, Jasmine and the Genie, and Jafar that all kind of rotate through in the bazaar near the carpets. They have Moana there now, which is really cool, in the Tiki Room. And then Captain Jack Sparrow, which is really popular by the Pirates of the Caribbean. In Tomorrowland, they have Stitch. And then on Main Street, they have Mickey Mouse and the most popular, Jack Skellington and Sally. If you're a Jack and Sally fan, you really need to think about if that's a huge priority for you. That line is legit 2+ hours long sometimes just to meet Jack and Sally for like a minute or two. We're not really into Nightmare Before Christmas, my family. So we've never really been into that and wanting to wait, but I know a lot of people that's like a whole reason why they buy a ticket, because it's the only opportunity at Disney World to meet them. And so they go and wait like 2 hours, or they have someone in their party stand and they're like the line person for Jack and Sally. So just be aware that the line is very, very long. And same for Mickey Mouse. And he's separate from the rest of the characters, like the traditional ones, like Minnie Mouse, Daisy Duck, Donald Duck, and Goofy. They're all over in like Tomorrowland, or not Tomorrowland, Toontown, which is now like Storybook Circus. And then in Frontierland, the Country Bears are like walking around. So they do have some really cool character meet and greets. I know we waited for Pooh quite a while when the last time we went, and I want to say like
bad.
I want to say like half an hour. I think Mom went and started to wait first.
Oh, okay.
And then we like joined her. Yeah, so it is super fun. Luckily, my kids can hang and stay up, or they'll fall asleep in the stroller like super late if they nap. And so they had a blast. They thought it was like the best night of their lives. The rides, like Big Thunder, for example, we went on that during the 8 o'clock parade, and we just went back to back to back, like got back in line and walked right on, got back in line, walked right on. And to the point where after the fireworks, my daughter wanted to go back over there because it was her first time being tall enough to ride it. We got on it, we rode it, and then they said, oh, there's nobody in line. Do you want to ride again? And my daughter was like, yeah. And I was like, no, I'm going to like puke. I can't keep doing this over and over. But it was like that slow. And same with Dumbo. Like we went on Dumbo and they were like, oh, you can go again if you want. And so we did. We just like stayed on it, which does
great. Not happen at Disney.
No.
Like that might be a thing at other parks, but I feel like that does not happen at Disney anymore.
No, not unless it's really late at night or something. Like
Yeah.
like about to close or something. But yeah, no, extremely rare to get to stay on. I do remember as a kid like that happening on Test Track once for one reason. I don't really know why or how late we were there, but I remember being on it with our Uncle John and them being like, "Oh, nobody's in line. Do you want to go again?" And we were like, "Yeah," we went again. But that's the only other time that I recall not being at an after hours event or a party that they let you just stay on the ride and ride again.
Yeah.
Which is crazy. So that is super fun. And then the fireworks, like Regan touched on, they are also special. They have a little bit of Nightmare Before Christmas and projections on the castle, and then timed, obviously, actual fireworks. And they're really, really cool. So my recommendation is to try to get somewhere where you can see the castle. A lot of people I know say like, oh, just stand behind the castle somewhere in Fantasyland and you can see the fireworks. Great. And then you don't have to like fight the crowds, but then you miss the whole projection show. So I definitely think trying to be somewhere near the main hub is important, but it does get crowded. And after that, like I said earlier, a lot of people kind of start to leave. So it's definitely the time to watch the fireworks show, try to go get on some stuff, and then try to get to the 11 o'clock parade. Our favorite spot for the parade is actually in like the Liberty Square area. Like we always try to sit right outside of like, it's not Town Hall. Where's the place that we sat last time, Regan?
I don't know. I know
it's
it's
like
right.
DVC?
It's like right across from, like straight ahead and to the left of like the stocks.
Yes.
That you like take pictures in.
Yeah, if you're headed towards the castle. Yeah, I think it's like a DVC thing. But it's like right across the street from the Christmas shop.
Yeah.
And like,
yeah.
But that is like a great place to watch because it's not right at the very beginning where a lot of people are over by like Tiana's and Pirates, like in that little corner is where it starts. And then it ends obviously on Main Street. So unless you're planning to leave right after or do the early one, if you're going to do the early one, try to go somewhere on Main Street so that you're already set for the fireworks. But that's going to be the most crowded area because that's what most people are doing, to try to watch the parade, stay for the fireworks, and then peace out. But yeah, it is, really, really cool event. I really have enjoyed going over the years. And as an adult, we have dressed up. I'm trying to go back in my mind. Maddie and I did Tinkerbell and Peter Pan, Rapunzel, and Flynn Rider. And then we also were like Alfalfa and Darla one year for some very random reason. I don't know why we were that. I mean, we loved the Little Rascals, but it wasn't Disney themed. We definitely try to stick as Disney. And then the kids, over the years, so one year with my nieces, or so I guess we did go last year. Was that the year you went with us? It was last year, Regan? Or 2 years ago? Because I think last year we must have gone because Blake was Snow White. She was a little tiny baby, but she was one. And then Eiley was Ariel.
It was last year. Because I was still in the program, and I went. That was when I did my attempt. It was like right after that, my first attempt.
Yeah, and then the year before was actually my littlest first trip to Disney. We went down just for the Halloween party. She was like 10 weeks old, which some people are like, "Oh my gosh, that's crazy. There's so many germs." Blah blah blah. It was a little crazy. I was literally pumping in lines, like had portable LV pumps, and was like pumping and trying to like feed her because she was only a bottle breast milk baby. And so, but it was great. It was, that she had an amazing time. She was riding and like stayed up super late and had really like, for a baby, she seemed to enjoy herself. And then same last year, even though she was little, she still really loved it. And we always bring costumes, but because it's so hot, definitely recommend bringing like a pair of short sleeve and shorts, like pajamas for them, or for yourself. Like if you're dressing up, just know it's going to be hot. And that's another thing that I wanted to talk about was getting there at 4.
Oh.
If you're going to get there when you can, which is 4 o'clock, and a lot of people want to because you're spending now a lot of money for this ticket, you need to be in line to get into the park probably at 3 o'clock.
Yeah.
And I know that sounds crazy, but when we've gotten there at 3:30 or even a little after 3, you still wait until 4, obviously, and it is hot. It's usually uncovered area. The sun is beating down on you. You're
you
usually
wait until
already
4 for them to start letting you in, and then it takes so long.
Yeah, because everybody has to get a bracelet.
Park.
Yes. I wish that they could figure out another way to do this. I don't really know why.
It's not a good system at all.
No, it takes forever, and it is so miserably hot. I mean, last year we went in September, and the year before we actually went the end of August. No, or vice versa. I can't remember. Anyway, so we haven't gone in October in a while, so October might be a little bit better, but you're standing out there for so long. So my advice is, if you've been to Magic Kingdom before, I know you paid all this money, but you're really going to spend most of that time standing in that line. So just get there at like 4:30 or 4:45, and even 5, and you'll walk in way faster. Because that line out there is brutal, and you're sweating and want to take off your costume. I remember the kids the first year, that when Blake was tiny, they were like, "We're itchy, we're done," and we weren't even in the park yet because it was so hot. And bring portable fans. The other thing I wanted to touch on was, a lot of people have asked about like weather. Because they've seen, like, this year there were a couple of dates that got canceled or people got refunded due to weather. So that can be a big problem. And unlike a day ticket, where if it's pouring all day long, usually they're not going to give you your money back. But for this event, they actually seem to be pretty good about, like, if the weather is really crappy and they're not able to give the full experience, that they offer, like, money back instead, or they just straight out cancel the party if it's supposed to be really, really bad weather. Like when the hurricane just came, they had to cancel a day. So yeah, that's another thing that can happen, so just be wary. So overall, I guess, Regan, how would you recommend to somebody that's never been to Disney before, period, and they go in October when the Halloween party's going on? Let's say they have 4 days. How would you recommend the Halloween party for them, or how would you have them do park days?
I wouldn't recommend the Halloween party for anyone that hasn't been to Disney before, because...
Interesting.
Because you can't... I don't know. You have 4 days, and if you have a 4-day ticket, that means you're going to be paying double to some extent. Like, yeah. I guess you could do it if you have money, I guess, do it on, like, your Animal Kingdom day.
Yeah.
But, like, I think that if you don't know Disney at all and you've never been, you'll waste so much time that you don't have, like, not knowing where anything is and not knowing, like... Unless you do, like, extensive research and you feel confident about it, I wouldn't, because the time is so limited compared to a normal day. On the flip side of that, if your priority is to, like, not shows and not fireworks and not things like that, I would recommend going to Magic Kingdom on a day where the Halloween party is happening.
Right, like earlier in the day.
Yeah, so if it closes at 6, it usually opens for early entry at 7:30, and the Magic Kingdom is, like, usually pretty empty on those days, like, relatively speaking, just because not a lot of people are going to pay for a day ticket to go to Magic Kingdom when it closes at 6 p.m. and it doesn't have the fireworks and it doesn't have like any of the nighttime hours. And so you'll be able to get on everything much easier. Like, if there was ever a day to do Magic Kingdom without lightning lanes, it would be a day when the party is happening.
Yeah, but you will not see, the fireworks that won't, like the Happily Ever After fireworks won't happen because you have to leave by 6 or 7, or I think it's by 7, I guess. Well, I don't know. Is it 6 or 7 on party days? Anyways, you have to leave early. Yeah, so it is like you're missing a huge piece if you've never, ever been before, and that's your only Magic Kingdom day. It is good to get on rides But as long as you don't care about the fireworks.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. If your priority is like just rides, then I would say that. But if you want to do like a whole experience, then I would do a different day. The thing about the other days, the alternative days, is that usually Magic is a lot more crowded on those days because it's not a Halloween party day. So it's like usually the day that everyone's going to be doing their Magic Kingdom day on their trip. So just bear that in mind during the holiday season. Non-party days can be tough.
Yeah, to try to get through everything.
If you have lightning lanes, you're probably fine. And it's usually open till 10 or 11. So.
Yeah. So just some things to think about. And then I also just really quickly wanted to touch on stuff that is, besides the parade and the fireworks, that's unique. So they have a stage show with the Hocus Pocus witches that happens 3 times a night, usually sometimes 4. And that's just a cute little show that's about like 20-ish minutes long. And they sing songs and they kind of go through the story of Hocus Pocus. And that's really cute. So if you are into like different things and not going for rides, that's something that I would recommend, like standing out there. You can do it it's almost on immediately after the fireworks. And then usually right before or after the parades. So that's definitely something that's super cute. There's obviously a lot of like unique merch that you can't buy except during the party. So that is unique. And then there's some different like dance party things. They have like a Disney Junior dance party at Cosmic Rays, which when we were eating there last year, we got to see a little bit of, which is super fun. And then there's a Descendants dance party. They call it Descend Dance, over by in Tomorrowland. And I'm not like a Descendants person. I've actually never seen it, but everyone's like, oh my gosh, your kids would love it. You have to watch it. So I guess at some point we will be watching that. And there's also a lot of unique like food things. So every year they change. And this year there was something that I was like, ooh, oh my gosh, I really want to try this. And it was called a chocolate caramel tart. And it was a chocolate tart shell filled with chocolate ganache caramel sauce, caramel cream, topped with a Twix cookie bar. Oh my gosh, that sounds amazing. And then there's also this like Madame Leota seance candle, which is like red velvet cake and cookies and cream. These are things that I feel like whenever we go, we don't take the time to try stuff like this or try different food because we're like, oh, we know what we like, which is good too. But they do have some really good looking, unique foods and snacks and stuff going on during the party. So just wanted to touch on that really quick. And then the ride overlays, there aren't that many. So I feel like at Disneyland, this is where they do more. Is that true? Or just like in general during Halloween time, they do more ride overlays? But
I don't know of any besides Haunted Mansion. Is there more than Haunted Mansion?
At
Disneyland?
Well, I guess the Guardians.
Oh,
I thought
Guardians.
It changed it.
Yeah, that's right.
And then in Cars Land, they do it more as a Halloween theme. Yeah. Somebody told me to.
Yeah,
so true. I guess maybe it's not that much. But there is the Mad Tea Party. The Teacups gets like a little bit of like spookier lights and music. The Monsters Inc. Laugh Floor, and then Space Mountain has like no lights on. It's just totally dark and villain music playing, which is fine. I mean, meh. I don't really see one way or another. So I guess for our old versus new this week, I was going to say, are you a fan of overlay or no overlay?
I mean, I'm always a fan of overlays just because it puts a unique spin on something I've been on a million times. So,
yeah.
I will say, though, the Christmas overlay on Space Mountain I was not crazy about because it was just psychotic. But I don't know that I've ever been on space in the dark with the music. I don't know how that would make me feel. That might make me feel a little weird.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to think. Like, I don't think I've ever been on it. Or maybe they didn't do it last year.
Granted, space is always dark. So what we mean is that they like turn off the stuff on the ceiling.
Like the stars and the flying cookie.
So it's just completely dark. Yeah. Which would be very unsettling.
I'm team no overlay. I just think, like, unless they were going to make the overlays better, so like Haunted Mansion at Disneyland with Jack and Sally, like, unless they're going to make it way more and just have it for October, like obviously they couldn't do it just for the party, but like the lights and the
Speedway
difference
also gets something.
Oh,
I don't know for
this year that
Halloween,
wasn't on the
but-
list.
So Halloween might not. It definitely does. Speedway is one of the best ones for Christmas.
Oh, really?
Because it has lights and stuff everywhere. So it's cool to look at.
Okay. Oh goodness. Okay. Well, so I'm usually no overlay, team no overlay, but Regan is team overlay, I guess.
Yeah.
And then for our quiz question this week, this is a random one, but this is just what came up on the list. How tall is Spaceship Earth? Did we do this already? We didn't do this, I don't think.
I don't think so.
So the answers, the options are 190 feet tall, 160 feet tall, 170 feet tall, or 180 feet tall.
190.
You say 190. I'm going to say 170. Let's see. Oh, it's 180. Of course. Right in between where we're at. Okay, cool. Well, thanks for listening. We're going to post some fun Halloween pictures. I know my last week on Instagram, if you follow us, I try to post like Throwback Thursday at Disney or TBT at Disney and post some old pictures of us. And last week it was me at one of our first Halloween parties dressed as Tinkerbell. So we'll try to post some fun Halloween pictures, maybe a couple of them this week so that you guys can see. But overall, we definitely recommend doing the Halloween party at some point. And let us know your thoughts as well. Do you love it? Are you about it? And if you've been to Oogie Boogie Bash, yay or nay, and like what is really cool about it? Because that is something that we hear a lot about.
Well, I also wanted to touch on that because I think that they changed more about Oogie Boogie Bash because it's like the testing grounds. Like I just saw something the other day that they're talking about adding like some kind of like a maze like Halloween Horror Nights at Oogie Boogie Bash.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So like I think they literally just like it's just a test. Because like and I feel like they do that a lot at Disneyland. Like just to see what is popular and what sticks and what isn't. Like the Disney Channel night and like weird stuff like that.
Ugh, yes. I really want that to come to Disney World so bad. I'd be there in a heartbeat.
Yeah, I don't think that's gonna happen.
I know, it's such a bummer. That's the problem is with Disneyland, it's such a locals park that they can do so much more stuff like that.
Yes.
Whereas Disney World, they just don't do stuff like that. So that's like the one bummer about being East Coast. Otherwise, I'm like a huge Disney World person. Okay, cool. And then please, if you are listening to this, give us a follow, give us a like, give us a subscribe, whatever platform, if you're on YouTube or Spotify. And would love to have a 5-star review on Spotify. And thank you for everyone who's been following along on Instagram. If you're not, it's at Soarin Around WDW pod. And here's Regan's spiel for the club.
Club 33, right?
Yeah.
That's what it's called? Well, this is
Well,
week 3.
You should know you're the one that wants to
You're
be
right.
in it.
So, week 3 of me asking for anyone that is in Club 33 or know somebody that's in Club 33, I would love to just attend with you at some point. I just am curious what happens in Club 33, like what the clientele is like in there. Like I just don't I don't understand what it is, and so I just really want to experience it one time. Just because like I feel like I don't fully grasp all of the perks and stuff that you get with it. So I'm just curious. So yeah, if you guys are listening and you're in it and you would ever be interested in setting that up for some time in the future, would love to do that. But yeah, that's it. So
Cool.
If that's all you
right,
got,
well,
then we will see you next week.
Yep, we'll see you next week.